part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible.
There is a controversy raging everywhere in America today. Everywhere, that is, except in our major media. A controversy that goes to the very heart of who we are. Are we citizens of the greatest democracy on the face of the earth? Are we captains of our own fate? Or are we merely pawns in the geopolitical strategies of shadowy international financiers? Financiers that may even control our own Federal Reserve.
For an economic disaster. This is a story that you should not only watch, but you should also make sure the candidates who want your vote watch as well.
Matter of fact, today just Warren Buffett was saying that he expects higher inflation because of all the stimulus. Look, it's not even economics 101. It's economics for dummies. You can't print money based on nothing. And they're printing money at an unprecedented rate backed by nothing.
David Walker, the Comptroller General of the United States. That's the government's accountant-in-chief.
Daunting fiscal reality.
For the last few years, he's been going around the country telling anyone who will listen that we're headed for an economic train wreck of catastrophic proportions.
Or that any serious candidate for the president, and most importantly, the two nominees for the major parties, that they make fiscal responsibility one of their top 3 priorities. If they don't deserve to be president. And if they don't, we're in trouble.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not.
The chief of staff for President Obama is an old friend of mine and my husband's, and was in the White House when Bill was there, and he said, you know, never waste a good crisis.
If we do not act boldly and swiftly, a bad situation could become dramatically worse.
Two, higher and then much higher taxes.
Take a look at the taxes that are in this bill. This is the one that the Senate is going to try to say, we want to discuss. We want to just discuss this on Saturday. That's all we're voting for. If that passes to discuss this bill, mark my words, it will pass the Senate. It's a game. These people are liars. Here's some of the taxes. We have first individual mandate tax. Got that one. That's an income surtax. Then the employer mandate tax. And by the way, these are just a few that we found. Just found a couple of them just in the 12 hours since we've seen it. 40% tax on Cadillac health insurance plans, medicine cabinet tax, HSA withdrawal tax hike, excise tax. This is on children's hospitals. Fantastic. Tax on innovator drug companies. You know, think of people coming up with new ideas. Gotta tax those guys. Tax on medical device manufacturers. Oh, those pesky pacemakers. Man, we gotta screw those companies. How about tax on health insurance? Eliminates tax deduction for employer-provided retirement drug coverage. You don't want your lawyer doing that. You should tax those employers. Please, that's the government's job. Raises haircuts on medical device deduction. AARP, though, is your friend. Can I ask you a question? In a recession, how does this help? How does this help? We're in a crisis. Why would any sane person do this?
$69.2 billion in new taxes. These bills represent the largest single tax increase in American history. Just what are those taxes? They are a first-time ever tax on health care benefits, commonly referred to as the Cadillac tax, which raises taxes on the American people by $32 billion. But that will grow rapidly over the next decade. A new Medicare tax on wages, self-employment income, and certain investment income that increases taxes by $210.2 billion. A new tax on health insurance providers, which will undoubtedly be passed on to consumers in the form of higher premiums, and totals $60.1 billion. A new employer mandate tax that will crush small businesses, reduce wages, and kill American jobs by directly increasing taxes on employers by $52 billion, and indirectly by much more, as employers are forced to spend even more than they do today on health benefits, even though unemployment is already near 10%.
3, an increasingly unbalanced budget, despite the higher taxes.
We also want to show you a rather grim sign of our times. It's not far from here in Midtown Manhattan. The national debt has grown too large for the national debt clock. It went up back in 1989 when the nation's debt was less than $3 trillion. The debt has been piling up so fast lately they had to drop the dollar sign to make room for an extra digit as the number turned over to more than $10 trillion now and counting every second. A whole new clock with 2 extra spaces will go up next year.
4, wild inflation of our currency.
Year 2015, the United States will experience an outbreak of hyperinflation that will cause the U.S. dollar to lose nearly all of its purchasing power. Rather than address the root cause of the upcoming hyperinflationary crisis, NIA believes the U.S. government is likely to implement price controls by ordering stores to sell food, water, and other necessities at government-mandated prices. With many trillions of newly printed dollars chasing too few goods being sold at artificially low prices, Americans are going to be faced with the very realistic possibility of empty store shelves. Very few Americans realize just how quickly store shelves become empty during a panic. During the upcoming currency crisis, with millions of Americans rushing to dump their dollars before they become worthless, all shelves at grocery and convenience stores nationwide will likely become empty within a few short days.
5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation.
Well, the Obama administration is moving quickly with plans to tighten the nation's financial regulatory system.
We have the federal government, Bob, taking over ownership or control of 51% of the American economy. This is stunning. Prior to September of 2008, 100% of the private economy was private. Today, the federal government has taken either direct ownership or control of banks, the largest insurance company in the United States, AIG, Freddie and Fannie. The federal government now owns, Bob, over 50% of all home mortgages. Now the direct student loan industry, Chrysler, GM, and with the healthcare industry, that's an additional 18% of the private economy, which means government would be making decisions over our lives from cradle to the grave, which means government would be making decisions over our lives from cradle to the grave, which means government would be making decisions over our lives from cradle to the grave. I think that's a stunning level of government takeover and control that we've never seen before in the history of our country.
6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives.
I think that this began the transforming of the country the way the president had promised. This is what he ran on.
Argue to socialism.
Well, first of all, then we'd have to say that the American public overwhelmingly voted for socialism when they elected President Obama.
And that's what this liberal will be all about. This liberal will be all about socializing. Will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your company.
It's pretty fucking easy for a government to turn to shit without anybody noticing. In 1847, Friedrich Engels described how the great communist revolution would come. Progressive taxes, a heavy inheritance tax, increased government control of banking, transportation, communication, and education, with children going to public schools at government expense. He believed citizens could be taught to give up their selfish self-interest and work for the benefit of the communist society. Isn't Frederick the one who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country"? Pretty fucking insidious, huh?
Seize their assets today, take over the country, I don't care. Issue an executive order, say BP, guess what? Call it socialism, call it communism, call it anything you want. Seize the